인디 가면은 언제나 울라요 우심한 나를 일로
Wow. Fantastic. My guest is Mark Dresser. Hello, Mark Dresser. I think you're muted.
Hi, Cathy.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, everyone.
Oh boy, this is really fun to interview Mark Dresser. I've been a fan of Mark's ever since I saw him at the Blue Whale, which was a while back, I'm sure, like 8 years ago or something. I don't know, long time ago.
Okay. Yeah. What we were just listening to was a concert. It was actually the last concert we gave before the shutdown. It was given on February 13th, 2020. And we were doing this. This is a thing that we've been researching for over 10 years now, telematic. This was remote performance before we needed to do it. So we were playing with a group of musicians in Seoul, Korea. And they were performing a day ahead. They were playing tomorrow when we were playing. So they were playing on the 14th. We were playing on the 13th. And the pandemic had just hit there. They were about 6 weeks ahead of us in terms of viral weather. So, the virus had hit them earlier, and so it was really interesting to 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 experience that they were really ahead of us in terms of at least in terms of not only in time zone but also in terms of COVID. And
What is that? Did I notice correctly that there were plastic shields around the performance, or was that part
no,
of the art?
so yeah, that was part of this the scenic design. So
Okay.
this was cutting back and forth between um, the soul perspective and the San Diego perspective. And the idea
Oh,
was to have, we were as if we were floating in space. And was really, this concert was the way that we called it changing tides. We called it a telematic translocational concert. They called it changing tides requiem for the earth. So they
say that
really
again. Tides, what?
requiem for the earth. So
Huh.
they saw this, the scenic designer really saw this on a different level. I had visited Seoul really to meet them in person. Some of the musicians we had been working with for for I don't know, close to 10 years, doing collaborative these telematic concerts. Uh, and this is always translocational, so we're playing in real time but between different geographical locations. This was just a duo concert. We've done different 3 locations at once. We've done as many as 5 locations at once.
Really?
Yeah, so like but working with the Koreans, and particularly these musicians and their colleagues at Seoul Institute of the Arts was just optimum. They I don't know, I just have a real affinity. The singer that we listened to is an amazing guy named Bae Il Dong. He's a Pansori singer. And I
Excuse me
first,
for a minute.
yeah,
Sorry. Now, to me, I've been to Japan a lot, and I
yeah.
didn't realize that was in Korea. So it was like being in a kabuki theater performance, and which is extremely passionate and very stirring, and like what he was doing. That's how they sing, and the sounds around are very much like this performance, really great. And then there's the story with the actors doing their thing. But so the word that you just used, is that kind of a theater?
No, it's not a theatrical, it's a style. It's a shamanic style of singing.
Oh,
And I became aware of him. There's a very interesting film that I recommend people digging out. It's called Intangible Asset Number 82. And it's a film
oh,
that was directed by Emma France. I think she's Australian, and it focused on the music of Australian free jazz drummer Simon Barker. And he's been studying seriously Korean music and the Korean drumming concept for long time. And he was out there. He was there to find this great Pansori master who was on his deathbed, actually.
hmm.
And in the process, he encountered Baal Dong. And when I heard him sing, again, it's very, very stirring. Literally, his training is that he lives, by a waterfall and sings out in nature, and does that for months at a time. And in fact, this year, during the last few months, he's been doing it again. You've seen him post his stuff on in Facebook. So literally, he is a force of nature. I mean, that is truly how the training is.
Yeah,
So yeah,
interesting.
no, it's just really, anyhow, anytime we've done something with Korea, I've always done everything in my power to make sure he's on the gig because he just brings
He's
really
very
special.
strong.
Yeah,
That really is. It's fascinating,
yeah.
that sound. And I didn't realize that Korea had that too, but of course, why wouldn't it? But yeah, it was quite, the kabuki experience that I had was kind of similar to listening to that. It was very especially being there,
Yeah,
and just great stuff.
I
Um,
enjoyed it.
yeah. Gosh, I have so many questions for you. There's Joe Della Penna says hi.
Hello,
Um,
Joe.
and Mark Baldrich is here. So, um, well, first, I would like to know how, what's that saying? How did a nice guy like you get to a place like this? But I mean, how does one enter would you say the avant-garde world? Is that or do you just call it all music or,
Yeah, I definitely have an experimental bent,
yeah.
but yeah, it's just all music to me. I mean,
Well, how does one kind of wake up and go, oh, I think I like that. I think I'm going to do that day after day.
I,
What was your youth like?
well, I grew up in Los Angeles,
Oh,
and in a cultural family. My mom was she's still alive. She used to teach guitar,
hmm,
folk guitar, and so we grew up, and she's a folklorist too. So we all have this kind of multicultural uh,
yeah.
environment, and at one point she was trading guitar lessons with the bass player Bill Plummer, who played with Paul Horn,
Uh,
and he was also studying sitar at the time. Anyhow, uh, there was, growing up in Los Angeles, I studied with you know, I'm Nat Gangursky, who was a great bass player, teacher who taught both principals at the time, Dennis Tremblay and Bruce
mm,
Ramsey of the LA Phil, and then as a teenager, I was able to take master class with Ray Brown. That's where I met my friend John Clayton and also bassist Roberto Miranda.
oh,
So it's just LA was an exciting place at the time. Of course, you have nothing to compare it with, and uh, and at this and then I'm was heard Hendrix live and heard Mingus and anyhow your affinities, it's hard to parse them out, but I just it's I had a friend who had an all-night radio program, late night program on KPFK, and we used to free improvise after two, I believe. And that I just had the bass took me there. I just kept
yeah, yeah.
following what seemed interesting, and after hearing Hendrix and hearing Mingus, I could hear that if you bowed the bass near the bridge, what we call panicello, is very much like feedback. And
Oh,
so the connection between that kind of expressionistic playing, as I'm formalizing the idea, but that that was I had access to that too through the bass. So and I just used to goof around a lot, and then those things I saved up some money and bought a multi-track recorder and started recording. And then when I was 17, I met Bert Turetsky, who became my most influential teacher. And eventually, a couple of years later, I went to go a year later after I transferred from Indiana University to UC San Diego, where I studied with Bert. And then through Bert, he introduced me to Stanley Crouch and Bobby Bradford, and through them I met Arthur Blythe, and the band was my peers at the time were James Newton and David Murray, and we were part of a band led by Stanley called the Black Music Infinity, and we would maybe perform 2 or 3 times a year.
hmm,
But I would drive up there every other weekend we would just play for hours on end.
hmm,
So there was an excitement about that we were doing something exciting, and I
yeah,
didn't know what I was doing, but I just to be in that environment and to be, it was just incredibly stimulating, affirming, and exciting to be part of it. And I realized that had nothing to do with me playing real book tunes, doing the repertoire, but I felt we were at the cutting edge of stuff. And Bobby had played with Ornette, and I felt like I was just part of that's where and that was in that band. That's where I was sort of getting similar messages, from that from both my studying classically with Bert Turetsky, and which was like, you're not an instrumentalist, you're here to be an artist. So like for someone who's 18 who barely can, who's just getting a technique together, to have that as a self-image is definitely not only, it's empowering.
Yeah.
So and then I was getting the same messages from playing with Stanley and his band, be an artist, find your voice. So like that was just the expectation.
Yeah.
And coming, and I, it was, and being an irreverent person, it just, it went well with my,
with your perspective.
So I don't know. And just, one thing led to another. And, I just, and then there were just serendipitous things in my life. I would drop out of school and then I ended up practicing hard and got a job with the San Diego Symphony, did that for a year and a half, and they went on strike. And I took a 3-week vacation to New York with a girlfriend and didn't come home for 2 years. And then I met people who became, I ended up, because someone threw a brick through the back window of my van, I ended up parking my car in New Haven, where I met Anthony Davis, who's been a friend and colleague for over 40 years, Gerry Hemingway, drummer, similarly. So it's just like, also my friend, bass player, Mark Elias. Anyhow, so these, none of this was planned. It just, kind of came to me. Yeah. And then I moved back to San Diego after a couple of years in New York, and ended up going back to school. And anyhow, yeah.
So you went back to school yourself in San Diego, but then you became a teacher after.
Well, it's like, took me like 11 years to finish a bachelor's degree, because I dropped out for like 9 years, and then I moved away. It wasn't like I went right to school. I moved, first of all, I moved to Italy for a couple of years because I got a Fulbright. And then after came back home, and then my wife and I, we moved to New York, and we were there 18 years. Oh. And I anticipated that we would be there forever, because, things were happening and we were very happy there. And then this professorship opened up at San Diego, and, I applied for it, and I ended up getting it. So, again, that was sort of, I didn't anticipate that happening, but it definitely changed my life in a very positive way.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I have a few comments here. Sure. Jay Clayton says hello.
Hey, Jay.
And I have a list of your credits on All Music, which sometimes is not 100% accurate, but we'll take a quick look at it too. Joyce Glasgow. Do you know Joyce?
Hey, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hey, Mark Baldrich is saying he likes your music, and yeah. Somebody asked if you actually did work with Anthony Davis.
Oh yeah. Still, I mean, for decades. And I think I'm going to be playing his opera in June, the Central Park 5 in Long Beach. The Long Beach Opera's putting it on again.
Oh, wow.
This summer. Yeah. He won the Pulitzer Prize for this thing.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. 2 years ago.
Wow. Wow, that's impressive. I was reading that you've recorded over 140 CDs. Is that your CDs?
Well, no, as a sideman, band leader, everything all total.
Yeah. That's a lot of CDs. And yep, you were a member of Anthony Braxton's Quartet on 9 CDs. Um, and yep, it's listed all the great musicians and creators that you've contributed to. I'm gonna go look at your all music for a minute.
Playing with Braxton was really it was a big significant break for me. We were living in Italy. I had extended a Fulbright, and we were just out, we were living there, enjoying life, and I was gigging, and all of a sudden, Gerry Hemingway gave me a call, and he said, "Listen, man, Braxton needs a bass player. Can you join us on tour day after tomorrow?" And they were in Ljubljana, and I said, "Oh, sure." He said, "Well, can I?" He said, "But you can't bring your bass." Okay, I'll meet you there. So anyhow, this chance gig went on for, it was sort of like, it went on for like 9 years, and it was like, and it was like, playing with an established master who, as a band leader, was really incredible, because not only gave you, all his players, both the maximum responsibility of playing this incredibly challenging book of music, as well as the maximum amount of freedom to contribute one's own ideas. So
Yeah.
it was like a perfect gig for me. And Hemingway I had known since I joined the group in 85, and I had known Gerry Hemingway since 1975. So we had 10 years and we had worked on a lot of music together, and a lot of ideas about developing ideas of metric modulation. We both loved Mingus's music, and we both were trying to find our own voices as composers, and we woodshedded a lot together. So to join him as a rhythm section was ideal. And then with Marilyn Crispell, and anyhow, it was a magical 9 years where I've had no musical experience that was quite like it. And and also professionally, playing with Braxton gave me credibility on the scene, because he had been he was an established older musician, and it was just, and it helped me in many ways. And when I moved to when we ended up back in New York, it served me as well. By that time I had been establishing my own music and identity. But anyhow, I can't overstate how significant playing with Braxton was, just on musically and spiritually, and it was just a beautiful experience.
When you played with somebody like that, would the band play also your compositions as well?
No. We were carrying a book of probably over 300 compositions. Literally, I have a stack of music, that I'm carrying with me, and then every night would be a different set, and would be his. So first of all, when you play a set with Braxton, every set was continuous. There was no breaks.
Oh my God.
So like, he would give you a set of primary pieces, let's say 5 or 6 primary compositions, and then within that you could improvise, as well as insert any other piece of the book in the music. So you were given a lot of freedom to contribute and change music. His music at the time was very much a collage like structure, but at the time the ideal was for it to be 50% notated and 50% improvised. So and it was kind of a really interesting way to use your brain. You had to be able to still negotiate reading, because there was too much. You couldn't memorize all that a quantity of music, and as well as be able to improvise. So it was a really interesting mental space to operate between those things. And so like he'd also have scores where the drums and bass would have our own score where we would play some notated music for let's say for 8 beats, and then we'd have 4 beats of improvisation, some more, go back to notation, another 6 beats of freedom going, so you have these very, very different structures to chew on. And you could also use, like, he have pieces that were completely notated that like the pianist Marilyn Kuspel and I could just interpret freely as like a background to something that was happening others. So it was a really malleable, fascinating way to musically function.
Was it difficult to learn how to do that at first?
I'll tell you, the first time I played with him, you just go by the seat of your pants. The first gig I met them in Ljubljana. They had gotten delayed. We there was no rehearsal. We got on the bandstand. We had looked at. They had given me the first one of the first. That again, it was he had pulled out all the toughest music to play. I was being tested, including a 50-page score. Then every page lasted about less than 10 seconds a piece. And so the pages are flying. I just remember just getting lost. I said, Hemingway, what page are I keep, I'm going on. And I was sure I got fired, I was sure. But it went on for 9 years. So, just
wow.
It was fascinating and a joy to
interesting. Do you remember any conversation after that first day?
No, but there were many fascinating moments. I mean, one of the things that the music, I remember there was a time when the music really shifted from being about everyone taking solos to being really kind of like a group mind. And, Braxton was a very interesting guy. He was not interested in perfection, but he wanted you to go out there and give blood. So you had to give, and we do these crazy gigs. You get to I get a bass and there's no end pin, and I got my Swiss Army knife and I'm whittling off a broomstick to put in the bass to play. Anyhow, it was great. It was great.
So, and a lot of the time, did you not carry your bass?
Well, especially that very first tour. No, most of the time I could bring a bass, but sometimes it was just financially impossible.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Wow, very amazing. That was really amazing. How old were you during those years?
Let's see, 19, I guess I was 33, 32, 33. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Started. Yeah. No, it was great. It was.
Yeah. Really mind-blowing stuff. Let's see. Well, one thing. Oh, we could take another listen to something.
Sure.
I have Big Picture, or is it modern? Oh, it's Modern Pine, right?
Yeah, that's from. Okay, so this is an early recording with a cooperative trio with
Matt Wilson.
Yeah, with Matt Wilson and Myra Melford. I think that was probably from 2006. Anyhow, we've been together for over a decade, and we just did our first tour. Not first tour after the pandemic hit in late October.
Yeah.
So this was from our first CD, and this is a tune that I had written for Ed Thigpen, who I had the joy of playing with for a couple of years with Eric Watson and trio.
Okay, cool. All right, here we go. I want to start from the very beginning. Wow, I love this record. Wow,
Thank you.
that sounds so great.
Thanks.
I love your artist, by the way. The different covers are really cool. Very cool. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful artistry. Oh man, that sounded so good.
Well, that there was I don't know, I have different agendas when I'm composing. So like that one was that was sort of like a round of metric modulation. So like that the tune starts out kind of like a shuffle, but
Right.
it's an 11, and then
Yeah.
it moves it
To 4/4 or something.
but it first goes to so the pulse is a dotted eighth, then it goes to the excuse me, the pulse is the dotted quarter, then it goes to the dotted eighth, it goes to the eighth, back to the double time, back to the eighth, and then the last tempo is the melody of the tempo of the melody itself. So that's anyhow, it's a kind of a round of sorts, a temporal round.
I loved it. It was
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, really great. That's the kind of album that I put on a lot. Small groups. I really like small groups or groups that really work together, like a small group with space. And I was trying to think of this one record. I never remember all the name of it. Who's Steve Swallow's wife?
The color Blay.
Yeah. So there's a Carla Bley record that I have. I forget the name of it, but it's so good. It's like maybe
She's
a
a great composer.
quintet. Huh?
She's a great composer.
Oh
Both of them
God,
actually.
so cool. It's I really enjoy that feeling of when I listen to music like that. It's definitely a space, space that you enter into and experience, and it's kind of divine. It's really wonderful.
Thank
Yeah. Joyce said she loves it too. By the way, Stephen Nachmanovich sends
you. Oh,
his
hello,
best.
Stephen.
um, yeah. So yeah. Speaking of Stephen Nachmanovich, do you ever read any of these books that like Stephen's books or Kenny Werner just came out with his second book after Effortless Mastery. Both he and Stephen waited about 25 years, to come out with their second books. Um, just
Yeah,
curious.
I've checked them. I've checked them out. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Any,
remember taking a lesson with Kenny Werner. Uh, effortless mastery is fantastic when you're a genius, especially. I mean, the guy's got like ears that can't, he's got like these amazing ears. So like, but I think everyone's got to find their own way with music. I mean, I think that's, I think, at the same time, you want to take in as much information as you can. But I think everyone arrives at where they arrive through different means. So, you know, um, it's funny the last, for the last year, I guess it's been my pandemic project. I've been writing a book on all the extended techniques I've been playing with for over 40 years. And it's, why, I don't know. I guess the pandemic is the perfect moment to go in the woodshed and do that kind of solitary
yeah,
project.
yeah.
But yeah,
So how's that book coming?
slow, but it's coming. I've been by spring 2023, it'll be out.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that have you written books before?
No, I haven't. and it's just, but I've given myself the deadline. It's going to come out the same time as a new solo recording that have completed now.
Yeah. Do you find it, I'm curious, do you find, I write a little too. And in fact, I'm coming out with a very tiny little philosophy book,
Mm.
like within the next few weeks, regarding that the same lesson in life applies to the same lesson in singing jazz, applies to the same lesson in voice technique, and so on and so on, and whatever you're involved with, how life lessons, it's not just about living, or it's not just about singing jazz, they're all the same lesson. But I find I didn't sit down to write this book in the beginning. I was writing, and then I gathered what I had written and kind of, went over it and put it together and did a lot of editing. I'm just wondering, do you find it a difficult process to write with like a planned book in mind, or are you also writing in kind of groups of ideas?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah, I do find it difficult. But I feel like I have to do it,
Yeah.
So in a sort of I'm documenting, these things, this sonic research, techniques that I haven't seen documented anywhere else. And this to make things clear takes a lot of editing and lots of thinking. I mean, thinking like notation. How do you notate the notes that are in between the cracks? And even, if you start writing in microtones, for example, if you get smaller in a quarter tone, how do you write it? It becomes, and that, with something like the bass, they have all these harmonics. I mean, you might get, they're like, there could be 10 different intervals between a half step, and if you start getting precise with this, not because I want to, but I have to.
Yeah.
If I want to communicate to someone, I want to be as clear as possible. And then it's sort of like, okay, and then how do I if I'm making it clear, I can give a bass player a simple concept that will make it possible. But if I want to take that information and clarify it to my trombonist, how do I express that? Of course, we have the ability to use samples, recordings to say it sounds like this, and we do use everything that we have access to, and why shouldn't we? But yeah, I think it's it's not a natural process. But I just I'm sort of like I'm deep down the rabbit hole. Okay. There's no, I gotta
I have a
continue.
question.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, and I ask this because of what I'm experiencing in my own studies with voice. But I'm curious regarding what you just said, about there might be 10 steps between a half step or tones. So, does one get led to that by sound and or feeling, or a perspective, like I'm hitting that note, or even if you're not thinking, just like, okay, this is what I want.
How it's worked for me is that, I just, through exploring, I'll hit the same wall every time. I said, and I can't get past until I look at closely what the hell I'm doing. And then as I start to examine it, I start to see, I see details that I wasn't aware of. And then you end up learning about things that you weren't. Like at one point in 2006, I was, improvising with harmonics, which I had always done. But at a certain point, I've been collaborating with this bass maker, Kent McLagan, and out of Denver, and he had built me some microphones that were built into the fingerboard, so it could pick up not only the perspective of the bridge, but also if the pickups were at the nut, so I could hear everything. And then I had pickups built into the middle of the neck. So then it was sort of like, well, it became, first of all, if I play every half step, what are the harmonics that are correlate with that? So that's something I had to learn. And then once I learned it, then I said, oh, these actually they have numbers that are correlated, and these numbers actually have some meaning. So like, as well as how numbers have meaning in terms of pitch and rhythm and ratios. And all of a sudden you start seeing these parallels, and it's like, wow, this is really interesting. And it's not like I don't have like any affinity towards math or anything like that. It's just like, oh, well, this is about sound and it works on these things. Like, for example, I was improvising with my friends Gerry Hemingway, I mentioned, the drummer, and a saxophonist named Earl Howard. And he's also an electronic musician in New York. It was 1980, and I started bowing, and I pulled the bow up the string, and all of a sudden the pitch went below the fundamental I was playing. It went lower than the note I was playing, and I'm saying, what the hell was that? And Earl, who had just knows, he's just a brilliant guy. He said, oh, those are subharmonics. And I said, what? And he said, oh yeah. And then he told me a little bit what they were. And then I went back to California, and at one point I learned about a physicist at UCLA who was studying subharmonic phenomena in the ocean. And so I learned that the ocean, at a wavelength, let's say whatever the cycle is, underneath the water, it does like a harmonics cycle that's in the inversion of the overtone series. And then every subharmonic creates its own overtones as well. So you have harmonics of subharmonics. And all of a sudden the world got like, it just, exploded, and just in terms of like what you could get going on. So then you spend 40 years trying to figure out, well, what can I do with this, as well as trying to master the technique. So like it's just like one thing opens up to another, and that's sort of, you ask, well, how did you get to where you're at? It's sort of like that, just kind of following my nose and where music takes me. And sometimes, I feel that it's that process that I'm really engaged in. That's what really, just to keep finding new stuff, that's what really excites me. And then, okay, you find new sounds. Okay, that's great. Now what's the musical context? Because without a musical context, this doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I don't care about information, but there's no way to get to the next level of music without knowing what the information is.
So I'm making my way through the Kenny Werner book, the second book.
Yeah.
And last night, I think the title was maybe Right Brain and Left Brain. I don't know. So anyway, he was saying, it was interesting, and it definitely applies to this. Left brain is analytical, and the learning of the language and the practicing, and then the right brain is the creativity. And I guess, there's been conversations over the years of which brain to use, especially when you're being an artist. But he said, he ended up saying that you have to use them together, which is exactly what you're saying. You have to learn the language. You have to use the left brain to learn and get adept at it. But then actually the right brain leads that and also pulls it forward to an expression that's worthwhile.
Right. I was trying. I'm trying to remember exactly how he expressed it. There's a guy, a great musician named Edwin Harkins. He was sort of he's still alive. Was a trumpet teacher at UC San Diego when I was a student, and he was kind of a rhythmic theorist, and so and a big influence on me just thinking about rhythm, because he could just do the most wild stuff, but his whole thing was within notation, and I was trying to figure out how to get towards those things that I could hear but couldn't express because I had no way of measuring them. And he sort of helped me give the tools, but then he said something where like the best use of your brain is where your analytic brain is being led by your intuition rather than the other way around. And that really rang true. And but again, you have to do the work when basically you learn the stuff, and then when you get to the gig, you just it's just like I don't want to, I just want to play. I don't want to be thinking about information. I want to let that information be transformed into something. And ultimately what excites me is not what I know, is what I'm going to discover, the kind of the accidents that happen, because that it's one of the big contradictions. We spend all our time learning to control our instruments, but what excites me the most is when you're out of control, when you get to those things that are beyond your control. And it's and that doesn't mean I want to it's within those things that I haven't imagined before. I've stumbled on something new that I love that.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing about the book process that shocks me, is that I like weekly I'm learning new stuff that I wasn't aware of about the instrument. And I said, how is that possible? I've been playing this thing over 50 years. But there's it's like an onion with layers and layers, and it's just wild. So that part I really enjoy.
Yeah. We have a few other choices to listen to, and you sent me something at the end here. Did you want me to look at that?
Well, let's. I mean, it was.
That one is aperitivo.
Aperitivo. So like, you could play that. That's it was sort of in the same series of tunes, and you might be interested with this. Because it has metric modulation, but also features voice. It has the late singer Alexandra Montano singing with it, and it was with my dear friend and close collaborator for many years, Denman Maroney, wonderful pianist, and then the wonderful drummer Michael Serene.
I wonder if this was the record that I listened to a lot of yours. Was there another singer that you worked with, or was
I used to work with. I had a quintet with Theo Bleckman.
It was a woman, actually. Okay. So maybe it was this one. I just really loved listening to this one. I just for some reason I haven't retained the name, but here we go.
It's Aperitivo.
Yes.
Oh, you're talking about the record with.
Yes, and this beautiful, really beautiful. Let's see. I love that.
Thank you.
That is, I don't know if you made more records with her, but she's the singer that I have
Oh
heard
yeah. I regrettably know she passed away about 10 years ago. Uh, Wonderful person and wonderful artist. She's um, she was in the Philip Glass ensemble for many years.
Oh,
So she's a black belt musician.
oh,
You know, I mean, because that tune is it's metric modulating bar by bar, and she just and she's singing independently of the pianist most of the time. You know, she's just really a tremendous musicianship as well as everything else, and a very funny person too.
Plus, she has a very,
Okay.
excuse me, a very interesting sound.
Yeah.
Beautiful, really.
Yeah. We
gets
did
inside
another.
your body.
We did a recording together of her music, and I think it was called Reflejo. I'll look it up. But Alexandra Montano was her name.
Was she American or?
Yes, born in Argentina,
Oh.
but she's raisins. I think her dad was Argentine, her mother was French, so she has a big cultural, and she spent most of her life raised in New York.
Oh.
And her son is also a formidable singer. Also, anyhow, I was trying to. I'll find it hopefully before we finish today.
Yeah, that's really wonderful.
Thanks.
Joyce is saying she loves this composition, and she also loves your album covers. I just want to. This is probably one of the largest all music credits that I've seen. So, I mean, they usually start up at the top, and this is like long. And like I said, sometimes it's not all accurate, but it looks, I mean, you've mentioned Anthony Braxton.
Yeah, that looks, I mean, I don't see anything that's not done.
Uh-huh. Bobby Bradford and Klaus Koenig.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Bobby, I've known for, I met Bobby in 1971, the first time I played with, Bert Turetsky introduced me to both Bobby and Stanley Crouch, and we played together. I wasn't even 20 years old, and I was playing the Claremont Music Festival, and Stanley invited me to his house because he taught at Pomona College, and I played trio with the two of them, and I mean, Bobby's 18 years older than I am. I guess he was 38 at the time. I was 19 or something, and my mind was blown. I had no idea what we were doing, but it was so exciting, and it was anyhow. So and it's I've had the privilege of doing things with Bobby every once in a while. Every few years we get an opportunity to play together again, and anyhow, it's just besides the music itself, is these lifelong friendships that are like the next best thing to the music itself, and maybe it's as important as the music.
Is John Zorn one of those people?
Yeah, John's a good friend. Yeah, I always see him when I go to New York. I spent mid-August to mid-September this year, and we were going to get together. So it was his birthday. I said, let's go have lunch. And then he said, well, yeah, that'd be great. He said, but there's this memorial at Roulette. Would you be into playing for it with me? And I said, sure. So we got an opportunity to play duo, and it was, it was just on fire. It was a very short thing. It was a very long program, but for, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes, it was just, it was fantastic.
Huh, that's great.
Yeah.
And there's several on here with Tim Berne and Arcado String
Arcado,
Trio.
yeah, that was a cooperative group with great violinist Mark Feldman, as well as cellist Hank Roberts. And then when Hank left the group, Ernst Reisiger played that. I think on the YouTube, on that playlist that you have, well, the
Yeah.
YouTube things, there's some Arcado on there.
Okay.
If you
Yeah.
want to check that out. I mean, those are old things. Those are old things from the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, that was that was the first cooperative group. I don't think I've played any band leader stuff, though we've listened to my compositions for sure. But let's see.
Um,
You want me
well,
to
let's see.
pick one-
Mark
want me to pick one out
Dresser,
now? I'll pick one out for you if you want. Let's see.
Arcado, right?
Yeah, hold on a second.
I mean, here's one.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's Gartman's. From the very first recording.
Oop.
Well, if we could stop there, we could play some more music, talk more
Okay.
things and some stuff too.
Booting them. Yeah. That sounded really beautiful. I saw you dancing over there, man.
I'm just trying to stay warm here.
Oh. I thought you were dancing to the music. Joyce said, I love this string trio, all three sounding great together. I always love hearing Mark Feldman's sweet tones on the violin and everything he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, it's been great.
Sounded
He
beautiful.
just moved back to Chicago. He was in New York for many, many. Well, we met in New York, and he just recently moved back to Chicago, which is
Oh,
lucky Chicago.
yeah, man. Chicago. Um, what, this is a kind of a side note, but
Yeah.
how did you know Jay Clayton?
Oh gosh, I think I first met, you know, my first trip to New York. I met, which was 1975. I met Jay. We had mutual friends, the pianist Larry Karish,
Oh, Larry Karish. I
uh,
remember him.
Jane Ira Bloom,
Uh-huh.
also I believe Glenn Moore.
Uh-huh.
You know, Glenn I've known for 1971. So yeah, you know, at least you know, and yeah,
That whole crowd.
I
Nancy King. Do you know Nancy King as
Nancy I've never met. I know who she is, of course, but yeah, yeah. So she, you know, I was on the road when Jay was celebrating her birthday in L.A. She
well?
called me to perform. I
I
regret I couldn't do it.
know. I know, we almost got you.
Yeah, that was October. I was October 28th. I think she shares a 27th. I think she shares a birthday
Yeah.
with Glenn Moore.
Yeah. Wait, is that right? Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah,
I have to look. I think you're
yeah,
right, though.
yeah.
October 28th,
7th. This is
27th,
Yeah,
October, no, 28th.
this is 28th. Okay.
Jay Clay and Andy Bay
Andy
and
Bay. Yeah,
Julie Kelly, a great jazz singer. Yeah. Yep, there you go.
yeah.
Um, I asked this question, and it really doesn't. It hardly ever gets an answer, but I'm always curious. Did you ever have what you considered a setback that you had to
It was
overcome?
starting when? Yesterday? I mean, of course. I mean, you don't. No one's asking any of us to do this. It's a complete act of will. And come on, you know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys, of course. I mean, fortunately I've had good health, so I've had nothing fortunately grave to impede me, but it's there's that's sometimes you feel like I have nothing to complain. I'm a fortunate uh you know well, I have nothing to, but as I said, no one's asked any of us, with exception of those people of such great, undeniable, charismatic gifts. So any people in this community who continue to do it, that's an act of will. It's a belief that this is of value, because certainly the culture is not supporting it. And it's interesting, having made a living professionally in Europe, you see like the attitude towards culture is very different. So like and I think that's why the musical community, everyone's pretty embracing by and large, because I mean, first of all, it's not, we're in a period, I mean, there are no working bands anymore. It's just people are, anyone who feels the call to be a musician and is able to make it work, hats off to them.
Hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, but but I mean every day, man, the bass says play me if you can. you know and if you want to, so
Wow.
anyhow,
I'm sorry, but that actually feels good to hear.
yeah,
Because I'm always like working on my voice, like,
well, yeah,
what the hell is going on with my voice,
it's the same, I think, for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You teach, do you teach in the university down
yeah, I
there?
teach at UC San Diego. I've been there for 17 years.
Is that where Rick Helzer worked?
No, he was at San Diego, San Diego State,
Okay. Yeah, he's an old
different
friend of mine.
campus.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you guys ever play together? I would imagine
Well,
that would be.
a little bit. I mean, he used to teach at there was a UCSD jazz camp during the summers, and he was often on faculty there, and that's where we would meet. And then
Yeah.
we got together a couple times and played. Yeah, fine musician, wonderful
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Um, do you find well, I guess you probably answered it already. I was going to say, do you find yourself practicing more of technique type of stuff rather than creativity? But you kind of already answered that. You said you do whatever comes up
Well, I mean,
necessary, right?
yeah, there's no. I mean, you got to get to the craft of what it is. I mean, anyhow, and I'm trying to figure out new stuff. So, and then, there's always like lots of stuff to learn,
Yeah.
for like, I mean, right now we have a bass ensemble and at UCSD, and, I have 9 new pieces to learn, between now and the end of March, in addition to writing my own stuff. And then I have, music I'm preparing for concerts in May, and then I'm going to go on, so there's never a lack of things to study. And of course you need to have your skills sharp to be able
Yeah.
to, got to sharpen those blades all the time. Yeah.
When you learn a new song, like for instance, what you're saying, you have pieces to learn.
Yeah.
Do you have a kind of not a precise method, but do you have steps that work best for you?
I'm not terribly methodical. I just, it's like, okay, what fire has to be put out right now?
Yeah.
Like, like some, so I look at these pieces. I said, what's the hard stuff? I circle it and I try to isolate that so I can not get completely hung up with those issues.
Yeah.
So for the, and then, if there's tunes that have, difficult forms, I may record the forms, and I may record and then figure, or if I'm trying to sometimes I can't tell the difference between composing and performing. I mean, sometimes I often write to my weaknesses or the things that I'm trying to get together. I'll write to that. So, and that may mean that I have to sequence something and then play with it enough till I've integrated it into my body, and then figure out, what's it's all or I'll record something and then try to find another part that goes with it. That's and it's, I mean, the process is so slow. When I get done, I have no idea how I got there. There's so many layers to it. Could we play something?
Yeah.
On that list I gave you on there, there's a tune. It's on that
The one that
YouTube list called Hobby Lobby Horse.
this is the one that you gave me today, or
It's on that YouTube list. I can send you the link if you like. Hold on. Let's see. It's hold on a sec. I'm going to put the link in the chat. I just sent it to you. I think that should be it. So this was like, being outraged with, the anti-discrimination via the Hobby Lobby corporation. And I was just thinking of like, what would be just a groove that was hobbled and messed up. And so then I started recording some stuff, and I said, now what does this look like? And so I could figure I tried to write it like 2 or 3 different ways. And what would a form be that would work on the, so one step led to another. You just start with the small and say, well, how do you grow this? I says, this really needs a melody. It took me months to figure out what would be something that could go with it. So anyhow, why don't we play some of this? This is for my septet. I received a Shifting Foundation grant to record the septet music, and this is a band with the wonderful Joshua White on piano, Nicole Mitchell on flute, Marty Ehrlich on saxophones, Michael Desson on trombone, David Boroff on drums, great Jim Black on drums. Did I say David Boroff is on violin on this recording? So okay. Anyhow, and myself, I think I got everyone.
Okay, cool.
can stop here,
Okay.
Cathy. He takes a beautiful violin solo. It's just, I just, we could talk and play some more music.
Yeah, yeah.
That way. But it was fun to write a tune that sort of was in form, but had these interruptions where it could go open and then return to the form. And it was a fun, a fun form to play on.
Seems like a long form. Was it long
Yeah.
or was it?
It is. It's yeah, I think it's like the form is like a bar of 13 and then a bar of 15, 2 bars of 13. I forget. It's non-symmetrical.
Yeah.
And then adding anyhow, but this idea, the thing that we have in the beginning with these kind of cadenzas, that became part of those interruptions, became part of the form itself. That it could go either be unaccompanied or we could divert from the form, but then we would pick up where we left off. That was anyhow
Wonderful.
Yeah,
it's really great.
I think that I always trying to look for something that is engaging to play.
Yeah.
I always want the people I'm playing with to feel positively, fully into it, engaged, and have a different kind of creative challenge.
I noticed, I know you said you were dancing around to keep warm, but
Yeah.
I noticed that you were dancing in time.
Yeah.
So do you experience, it looked like you were experiencing a consistent groove.
Oh yeah.
Is that,
For
yeah?
sure.
Yeah. I love that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just makes me go, yeah, I like that. I guess, this music is interesting and it's stimulating in different ways, and I think an underlying groove, even if it's not like, bum, 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 is appealing, to the listener.
Well, we're hardwired for it. And it's funny because I love rhythm, and I love to groove, and I love to play open too.
Yeah.
And like the next tour, I'm at the end of March, I'm going on tour with a trio called Jones. It's with the saxophonist Larry Oakes from the Bay Area, who's a founding member of the Rova saxophone quartet, and Vladimir Tarasov, who's a Russian drummer who's lived most of his adult life in Vilnius, Lithuania, and he was part of the Ganelin trio, which was at the time was the premier Soviet improvising group. They were like, I heard them in the 80s. They were totally amazing. And we met, and we become, I've been friends with Vladimir for 40 years, but there's, these guys are such good musicians, and that we can play night after night without any plan, and do it, and have a totally, everyone listens so well and has such vocabulary. If you'd like, can I play you something off a new recording?
Absolutely.
Let me share with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just, while you're looking for that, Michael Welch has come on. He admires you, and he said he played with you. He listened to you in Orlando decades ago with
Gerry Hemingway.
Yeah, and maybe with Frank Grakowski as well.
I don't think Frank was on that. I know Frank, but I think Orlando. Yeah, no, I don't. I think it was the Jerry's quintet. I don't think Frank was on it.
Okay.
But I'm sure Frank's played with Hemingway, and I'm sure he's played in Orlando, but I don't think Frank was on that gig. But I think it was either Ellery Escalin or Michael Moore. Because I
Okay.
don't remember doing that quintet. It was definitely a quintet book. So it could have been Ellery and either Walter Verbos on trombone and or Herb Robertson on brass.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, so well, that's good. I think that was the last time I was in Orlando too. And so anyhow, let me play you this is something a new recording.
Is this out yet?
No, this will come. It's going to be coming out, I think, in spring on the ESP label.
Okay.
So Cathy, I'd like to, hold on a second. I want to play something for you. This is an upcoming solo recording.
Wow. No, okay.
Okay.
My first,
Oops.
first of all, I love it. Second of all,
What the
so
hell was that?
I have to ask this question. Maybe it's kind of a
No,
stupid
no.
question, but is that all live or is it
Yeah,
over?
yeah. Yeah, that was completely live.
So how do you get a, did you use your left hand to pluck the strings and then use your right hand bowing separately?
Yeah. I'm playing it all at once.
Wow.
And then Kent made me this set of metal tines. This is something we've been working on um, for for a long time now. Like I think since 5-6 years,
Yeah.
and we've I think
That,
they're
that goes on your bass.
yeah.
And you,
So I'm looking for. I did something where I unplugged. I'm hearing you out of a different source, but hold on a sec. So it's a set of metal tines that fits on. This is like a secondary bridge here.
okay.
So this fits on like this. It sits behind the bridge of the bass, and then it pops through the strings up behind the bridge. And so I bow it, and it conducts into the bridge.
Uh-huh.
So anyhow, it's like I had this idea for this kind of augmentation of the instrument. Not like I didn't have enough to deal with already, but it just felt like I just I had a sense that would be fun, and so fortunately. Kent's one of those guys who'll just say, "Okay, well that's interesting. Let me give it a go," and he can just make anything.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
yeah, so that and then you have to learn how to play it and get all the voices going, and
Did
you just like you're trying to have a conversation with all these different sounds. So there's this kind of yeah. So you end up having solo dialogue going on.
um is there also a looping thing that you were doing?
Oh, what?
Looping?
No. There's no electronics. Yeah. No,
No.
it's just yeah.
Yeah.
It's just me. It's
So
just just as rhythmic motifs that I just keep going.
yeah,
Make them. Try to get trying to get a dialogue going that makes musical sense.
I have to say that really you and Jay should play or record together.
Yeah.
You really should.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is her total wheelhouse as well. Yeah. And she's so excellent at it. So it's amazing. Um boy. And so that's a
That will be released next spring.
this in 22,
No, 23 actually.
23. That's
Yeah.
what you said when the book comes out.
Yeah.
And did you? Oh, hi, Jay. She said, "Me too."
Yeah, me too, Jay.
Excuse me. I have a chronic cough.
I'm sorry.
Me too. um, so that's one cut from the recording. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
exactly.
And the whole recording is a solo recording.
Yep.
Mark, you're so exquisite.
Thank you. Thank you.
What beautiful, amazing sounds, and just movement, and it's just really, really nice, beautiful.
Thank you.
I knew I was a fan, but
Yeah.
now
Well,
I'm
it's well. Anyhow, I don't know. The composition side the instrumental side. They pull me all, they all have different directions they want to go in, and it's just normal to make all your pursuits talk to one another. You realize you were talking about writing a book and how all the ideas start to come together. And again, I think that that's how we're wired to
Yeah.
try to make sense out of everything.
Yeah.
So it's just normal. But sometimes you get really I get pulled in very different directions.
Me too.
The sound thing and the music, the jazz musicianship thing can be very, very different, very, very different directions.
Yeah.
And then you want to make it, I think about that poem by the saxophonist Oliver Lake. I want all my food on one plate. That image really true to me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Have you ever done music for a movie?
I've written music for silent film.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what that I've done. I see. Yeah, I've done a couple soundtracks that way. One was The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. It was that 1909 German expressionist film. I toured several years in Europe. At the time, it was like the only way that I could band lead. I was working with an agent, he said, that I was working too much as a sideman for him to get me gigs. But if I compose this music for silent film, he could do something. And then I wrote a score for the Buñuel, Dali, Un Chien Andalou, Andalusian Dog.
Wow.
And then we toured. I had a trio with Chris Speed, great woodwind player who's now living in LA, and Anthony Coleman on keyboard. And Anthony also wrote a very strong score for the Jean Vigo film called Apropos de Nice. And again, we toured Europe.
Do you have any of the silent music stuff on online?
Yeah, they're where does it? They were both on the Knitting Factory label. I don't know where it exists now.
Let's look, just see if it comes up on
It's
YouTube.
called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and this is the I'll say this is the name of the other the Buñuel.
Okay, so I have a full movie and a trailer, but that's you or soundtrack.
That's not me though. There's something called I'll Be Seeing You. EYE''LL.
Okay, wait a minute. So let me see. I'm
I'll
going
look
to
for
share this too, so you can see this.
No,
But,
I doubt that's what it.
so what would I put?
That's the film. That's not my score.
And just if we were looking for your score, what would I say? Would I say your name?
Yeah, I put. Hold on a second. Let me. I'll see if I can find it. I mean, it's just out of print.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some copies at home, but it's on Discogs. Here I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Where is the chat? Okay, so here's
Where is
the
that? Darn.
link for that, and then
Oh, I can't. I don't know if I can listen, right?
no, I don't think so. I think the other one's on Amazon, but I don't know if you can listen to.
I probably
Yeah,
could listen to Amazon.
They don't have it. There's nothing to play, but it's the CD exists.
So,
But they're both out of print.
so if you went to this Discog, this is your music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And-
all the music I wrote for it. Yeah,
Okay, so you could actually.
and it's a wonderful trio. It's with Dave Douglas on trumpet and Denman Maroney on piano.
Oh.
Yeah, that was really, really, really fun.
We'll have to listen to
Yeah,
that, right, Joyce? We'll have to buy that off of Discogs.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We're about at the end of our time, I guess.
Oh, yes, we are. It
Thanks
is
so
two
much for having me as
hours.
your guest. I really appreciate it.
Mark, it has totally been my pleasure, and I'm really so happy to speak with you and to hear your music again.
Thank
And
you.
um, I'm going to be listening to your music a lot now. It's
Thank
just
you.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really
Really
appreciate
been really been fun.
it. All right. Well, I'm going to stay on and just tell people who's coming. So
Okay.
if you want to leave, you're totally welcome to. But thank you, thank you,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks for the
Mark.
invite. Bye bye.
Mark Dresser. Wow. I just feel electrified. I feel good. Woo, really good. Um, yeah. I remember going into the Blue Whale, and Mark Dresser had a group there, and Brad Dutz, the percussionist, who's a very eclectic guy. We were there, and I didn't recognize anyone in the room, which was unusual because I went there a lot, and I would normally recognize people. And I said that to Brad, and he said, "This is a whole other genre of people." And actually, a lot of them were about my age. Very interesting. Um, anyway, that was fascinating. Tomorrow, another bass player, Ryan McGillicuddy, who lived here in LA for a good while and played a lot. And then he moved to Korea for a while, and then he moved back to the States. I think he's in Kansas City, I want to say, I forget. But that's tomorrow, Ryan McGillicuddy. And then Wednesday, a singer who used to live here, an American named Leah Klein. And then she moved to Amsterdam quite a while ago, and she's adorable. She's kind of a real mixture of style. She's a jazz singer, but she has kind of a little bit of show in her. Um, so, oh, Michael, I see. He's been in San Diego a while, but he said he lived in New York for like 18 or 19 years and then came to California or back to California. um, he grew up in LA actually, and but yeah, there's quite a number of avant-garde players here. Quite a number. Check out Vinny Golia. He's connected to a lot of them, and the Klein brothers, Alex Klein and Nils Klein. Yeah, there's quite a few. Anyway, Thursday through Sunday, I'm doing my archives. So this week's archives, Thursday is John Prue, the pianist, composer, singer. Sounds kind of like Chet Baker, educator. Friday is the singer, great jazz singer from Seattle, Greta Matassa. Saturday is a really great kind of jazz R&B singer, Cathy Cousins, who's an amazing business person too, and she's a great painter. She's very interesting. She's really makes something out of her life. She really takes a hold. And then Sunday, one of my favorite conversations was with one of my favorite guitar players, Anthony Wilson. I just loved that conversation. He's so spiritual, and he's just such a fine musician. I wanted to show you. I have these little stickers that I'm going to start selling on my site with different sayings that I've acquired mostly from the Noontime Hang Show. This one actually was great for today, and I kept meaning to show it, but I never did. You are headed in the right direction. Isn't that apropos for our conversation today? Oh, God. Anyway, oh, thanks, Michael. you know, I do talk to improvisationalists and probably could more, but I do talk to a lot of improvisationalists because I really love that. But gosh, you know, there are so many people all over the world, musicians, creative people that are so interesting. I just find, you know, I find these conversations incredibly interesting. Really cool. Oh, that's cute, Joyce. Cathy's fortune cookies. I like that. So, just a quick word about the following week's live guests. Monday, February 7th is flutist Kenny Stahl. He's a really good player. He's been around a long time. And then Tuesday, not improvisationalists, but these guys have been working together. They're brothers, Bill and Bo Winokur from Boston. And they've been working together in Boston for years. In fact, Bill was played in my dad's big band a little bit too in Boston. I mean, that's how long they've been playing, you know. And then Wednesday, the great singer, arranger, educator, Darman Meter, who's very wonderful. So again, we're going to keep going. If you are in Los Angeles, I'm working Saturday night, the 5th, at the conference room in Playa Vista. It's my monthly play and jam night. We're going to have Gary Fukushima on piano, John Leftwich on bass, and Aron Serfati on drums. It will probably be inside because we're still dealing with a little cool weather here, and it's a little hard for the band to stay warm in the cool weather outside. As the months go on, we'll move back outside again, but I'm guessing not till April. I'm guessing. Anyway, it's really fun. 6:30 to 9:30. You do have to have, you know, your vaccination done, or I guess a test. I'm not sure because I always show my vaccination. But the spacing is pretty comfortable. It doesn't feel, you know, if you're a person who doesn't mind coming out during this time, I think you'd enjoy it. 6:30 to 9:30. Do look at my website for parking directions. Very easy, but confusing the first time, possibly. So great food, really good food. And I do a set first and then we jam. And it's really nice. We had a great time last time. So that's Saturday. And that's it for now. Have a great day. I'm going to. And I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Bye. Thanks, Mark Dresser.